You already know what you're supposed to do. Save more, spend less, build an emergency fund, invest early, invest consistently, don't carry credit card debt. You've heard it, you've nodded at it, you might have even written it down somewhere. In a notes app, in a journal, on a post-it that's been on your fridge for longer than you'd like to admit. And yet, here you are, watching a video about money, which means something isn't quite connecting. And I don't mean that as a judgment, I mean it as a genuine observation, because I've been exactly where you are. Knowing the right thing, doing the other thing, and then quietly wondering why knowing never seemed to be enough. Because here's the part nobody really talks about. The information was never the problem. The story most people have been told, and the one we've all basically accepted, is that the path to financial health is an education problem. Learn more, do more, read the right book, watch the right video, finally understand how compound interest works, and something will click and your behavior will change. And I understand why that story, is appealing. It puts the solution right there within reach. Just learn more, just understand it better. But there's a study that blew a fairly large hole in that idea. In 2014, researchers David Lapson and Shlomo Benartzi did a deep analysis of financial literacy programs, dozens of them, across thousands of participants. And what they found was that improvements in financial literacy explained less than 0.1% of the variance in financial behavior, not 10%, not even 1%, a fraction of a percent. Think about what that means. You could dramatically improve someone's financial knowledge and still barely move the needle on what they actually do with their money. So if it's not a knowledge problem, what is it? The answer is less comfortable. But it's also, I think, genuinely freeing, because once you see it, you stop blaming yourself for the wrong thing. Let's start at the beginning. Not with money, but with what money actually is in your nervous system. Money, for most people, is not a neutral tool. It's emotionally loaded in ways that most financial advice completely ignores. And this isn't a personal failing. It's developmental. The way you related to money as a child, the conversations you overheard, the stress you watched adults carry, the feeling of abundance or scarcity in your household. All of that became a template, a set of emotional associations that your brain wired in early, before you had any language for it. Psychologist Brad Klontz has spent years studying, what he calls money scripts, the unconscious beliefs about money that drive adult financial behavior. Things like there's never enough, or money is the root of all problems, or wanting more money is greedy. And what he found is that these beliefs don't sit in your rational mind waiting to be updated by a YouTube video. They sit in your emotional memory. And emotional memory is not updated by new information. It's updated by new experiences. This is the first layer most financial advice skips entirely. They hand you a budget template and assume the thing blocking you is that you didn't have a budget template. They never ask, what does money feel like in your body? What happens in your chest when you check your account balance? Because for a lot of people, and maybe this is you, checking your bank balance isn't a neutral act. It's something you put off, something that comes with a low-grade dread. Even when you roughly know what's there. And that dread isn't irrational. It's a protective response. Don't look at the thing that causes pain. The problem is that not looking is exactly how the situation gets worse. Here's where it gets more specific. There's a concept in behavioral economics called present bias, and it's one of the most well-documented phenomena in all of human psychology. The basic idea is this. Your brain doesn't weigh future rewards and present costs equally. When a benefit is in the future, even the near future, your brain discounts its value significantly, but costs in the present feel immediate and real and heavy. So, when you tell yourself, I'll start saving seriously next month, you're not being lazy or weak-willed. You're experiencing a genuine neurological asymmetry. The benefit of saving is abstract and distant. The cost, the thing you're giving up right now, the dinner, the trip, the feeling of having options, is concrete and immediate. And this, isn't just a quirk. Researchers like Daniel Kahneman have spent decades mapping the two system architecture of the human mind, the fast, emotional, impulsive system, and the slow, deliberate planning system. The fast system is not dumb, it's actually extraordinarily intelligent. It's just oriented entirely toward the present moment. Most financial advice is written entirely for your slow, deliberate system. Make a plan, set goals, review your budget monthly. All of that requires you to consistently overpower the fast system with the slow one. And the fast system is not only faster, but it's also the one running the show when you're tired, stressed, hungry, or emotionally dysregulated, which is, for most people, quite a lot of the time. Here's the thing that makes this particularly frustrating. The moments when you most need your rational financial mind, right when you're stressed at the end of the month, when a bill surprises you, when work has been brutal for 3 weeks, are exactly the moments when your deliberate system is least available. And your fast system, sensing scarcity and threat, defaults to one of two things: avoidance or impulsive relief. You either don't look at your finances at all, or you buy something that makes you feel briefly in control. Neither of those is stupidity. Both of them are the predictable outputs of a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. So what's actually happening when you know the right thing to do and still don't do it? The gap isn't ignorance. The gap is integration. There's a difference between understanding something intellectually and having it wired into your daily automatic behavior. And the key word there is automatic, because the research on habit formation, work from people like Wendy Wood at USC, who has spent decades studying behavioral automaticity, consistently shows that sustained behavior change happens not when people make better decisions, but when they reduce the number of decisions they need to make. Every time you have to actively choose to do the right financial thing, you're burning a resource. Willpower, decision-making capacity, emotional bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, it's finite. And for most people, by the time they get to the evening, after work and traffic and family and everything else, that resource is nearly gone. This is why the gap between knowing and doing isn't just psychological, it's structural. The system of your daily life has not been set up in a way that makes the right financial choice the easy financial choice. You know what to do, but every moment of doing it still requires active effort. And active effort, compounded daily, is exhausting. So, eventually, you stop. Here's the reframe that I think actually changes things. Stop asking yourself, why can't I stick to my plan? And start asking, where in my day am I still relying on willpower? Because the goal isn't to become a person who is more disciplined. It's to become a person who has engineered their environment so that discipline is rarely required. This sounds simple, but it's actually a profound identity shift. It moves you from someone who is fighting their own psychology to someone who is working with it. And that distinction changes everything about how you approach the practical side of this. You are not broken. You are a completely normal human nervous system operating in a financial system that was not designed to account for how human nervous systems actually work. The credit card industry absolutely knows about present bias. They've known for decades. That's why the minimum payment is always so small. That's why the interest compounds quietly in the background. The architecture was built around your psychology. You just never built an architecture of your own. So, what does that actually look like? The first thing, and this follows directly from what we just established about present bias and the decision moment, is to automate the most important transfers before you ever see the money. Not because automation is a good habit, but because we've just established that the moment of decision is where your present biased brain reliably fails. The strategy is to eliminate that moment entirely. If money moves to savings on the day your paycheck hits, You are never making a decision about whether to save. The decision was made once in a calm moment, and then it runs on its own. Your fast system never gets a vote. The second thing is this: reduce the friction of awareness. Most people have designed their relationship with money so that checking in requires effort. Logging into an app, remembering a password, navigating to the right screen, and because we've established that avoidance is a natural response to financial anxiety, that small friction is enough. It becomes a reason not to look, so instead make one small change to lower the entry cost. Maybe that's a widget on your phone's home screen showing your account balance. Maybe it's a recurring 5-minute calendar block twice a week. The content of those 5 minutes barely matters. What matters is that you are systematically dismantling the avoidance pattern, not through willpower, but through removing the barriers to engagement. The third thing is about your emotional money scripts, because even with the right automation, even with a low friction awareness practice, there will be moments when a decision does land in front of you. A big expense you didn't expect, a choice about whether to invest or hold cash. And in those moments, the old emotional wiring will activate. So it's worth spending genuine time, not journaling as productivity theater time, but real slow time with the question, what does money feeling safe actually look like for me? Not what the YouTube video says it should look like. What does it feel like in your specific life? Because the answer to that question is more powerful than any strategy. It tells you what you're actually optimizing for. There's something I want to leave you with that has nothing to do with tactics. Every behavior you have around money, the avoidance, the impulse spending, the paralysis, the feeling that you're somehow behind even when things are technically fine, every single one of those behaviors made sense at some point. They were solutions to something, protection against something. They were rational responses to emotional realities, and your nervous system adopted them because they worked. They may not work for the life you're trying to build now, but they were never failures of character. They were adaptations. And the quieter piece of this is knowing that doesn't automatically fix anything. You can understand all of this completely and still feel the pull to close the tab when your bank balance makes you anxious. Understanding doesn't override the nervous system, but it does change your relationship with yourself in those moments. You go from, why am I like this, to this is a thing that happens and I have a plan for when it does. That shift, from self-judgment to self-awareness, is, in my experience, the actual foundation of every sustainable financial change. Not discipline, not information, just the ability to see yourself clearly without the shame making you look away. We talked today about why knowing the right thing to do isn't enough, and the emotional wiring underneath that gap. But there's a layer we didn't get to. Why two people can go through the exact same financial struggle and come out with completely opposite money beliefs. Same experience, different script. Next video, I want to get into exactly why that happens and what it tells you about the specific pattern that's running in you.